It took hold on Saturday and within hours had forced more than 1,000 people to flee as their homes were overrun.
As we came down, we had to drive through the fire on both sides of the road. It was really scary, and branches and things were on fire. And as we came down, there was fire everywhere. And all our houses, our neighbors' houses, friends' houses, everybody's houses are burning up. It's awful.
All across California, this has been a sweltering summer that never seems to end. The land here is tinder dry from years of drought, and right now the fire service is stretched to the limit, putting lives on the line up and down the state. Animals too have suffered. Some were left behind, others escaped, but not all were unscathed. And still the fires rage on. Thousands of firefighters are battling the blazes, and the Governor of California, Jerry Brown, has declared a state of emergency to free up resources to tackle the crisis. But for many here, it comes too late. James Cook, BBC News, Los Angeles.
European Union ministers will gather in Brussels today for an emergency meeting on the migration crisis. Germany closed its borders with Austria temporarily yesterday in an attempt to control the numbers entering the country. Police said more than 16,000 people arrived in Munich between Saturday morning and Sunday afternoon.
In the meantime, David Cameron is visiting Beirut to see the refugee camps Britain is helping to pay for.
Lebanon is hosting over 1 million refugees fleeing the civil war in neighbouring Syria. The Prime Minister announced that he's appointing a minister to be responsible for Syrian refugees, the MP Richard Harrington.
I'm also appointing a specific minister with responsibility for Syrian refugees to make sure that the 20,000 that we have promised to resettle and give a good, warm home to in our country, that happens rapidly, it happens well, and the whole country pulls together to deliver that. So I think it's vital to come here to see for myself what needs to be done.
So the Prime Minister visiting refugee camps. Let's get more from our Middle East correspondent Jim Muir, who's in Beirut. And Jim, just tell us a little bit about the visit and why it's important.
Well, he's, as you say, been at a refugee camp in the Bekaa Valley, helicoptered in there shortly after arriving from London. Then he flew back to Beirut, and he's just been visiting this school behind me here, which is a Lebanese school taking in quite a number of Syrian and indeed Iraqi refugee children. He's then off to see the Lebanese Prime Minister before moving on out of the country. Now, his message has been that he's here to see the conditions on the ground. Now, his argument has been, of course, that Britain and other countries should only take in limited numbers of migrants, and that the emphasis should be on making the refugees as comfortable as possible in the neighbouring countries, so they can get home, be closer to home in every sense, and get home more quickly once the crisis in Syria is over. So that is his message. He's been seeing, as I say, children in the school behind me here, where he got a warm round of applause before leaving. As I say, his message is to reinforce the one that international community is supporting the refugees on the ground and the host communities as well.
Jim Muir in Beirut. Thank you, Jim.
Let's see, the time now is 10 minutes past 8. Let's go back to our lead story now. As Labour's new leader, Jeremy Corbyn, assembles his top team, his allies say he's managed to reflect the full range of opinion and talent in the party ranks.
They say they've attracted 15,000 new members in the last 24 hours, but there is dissent from within the party about some of the shadow cabinet appointments.
Let's talk about this now, joined by a former shadow Attorney General, neighbouring MP to Jeremy Corbyn. It's Emily Thornberry, who's in our studios in London. Very good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning. We know the shadow cabinet is not complete as yet. Are you going to be in it?
I don't know. I haven't had a call. I'm quite busy. I have quite a lot to do as it is. I'm on the Health Select Committee, which is very important to me, and I'm also chair of the London group of Labour MPs, and I also represent the best constituency in the world. So I kind of have quite a lot to do. If I'm asked to do another job as well, I will of course serve.
So you will serve if you're asked. Already some criticism, and you'll be interested in this, of course, as many political commentators are, that there are not enough women in those key roles, the most important roles. The Labour Party is looking very male in those top jobs. What do you make of that?
Well, come on, like, let's start with reality. 40% of the Parliamentary Labour Party are women. We're a pretty bolshy lot, and we certainly aren't backwards in coming forwards. And we do have women in what I would see as probably the two most important jobs, which is in health and education. And I think that, you know, a good health secretary, a good education secretary can make a real difference to people's lives. So I'm really pleased that we have two women in those two jobs.
Now, one of the appointments that has yet to be made is the Shadow Defence Secretary. If you were offered that, would you take it?
I'm not going to speculate on anything. It's basically up to the leader to decide one way or the other. So I'm not coming here to apply for a job. I'm coming here to say, or to answer any questions that you might want to ask me about where Labour is going and what this shadow cabinet says about the Labour Party.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what it says. It says that Jeremy has done exactly the right thing, which is to reach out into the Parliamentary Labour Party and take people from all wings, and is behaving in the way that I know that he would behave. It is absolutely within his character, is that he is collective. He does work with other people. He listens to other people, and he's not a sort of factional politician that lots of people were worried that he might be.
Okay, now, well, let's stick with policy to a degree. The reason I asked about that Shadow Defence Secretary job, because people are suggesting it's a tricky one to fill, because you now have a party leader who is against the Trident nuclear deterrent. He's not in favour of NATO, and that would put his Defence Secretary in quite an odd situation, to say the very least.
Well, okay. I think that I don't think that being against nuclear weapons is actually that zany, you know. If you look at how much it's going to cost, there's £100 billion on weapons that we won't be in charge of, but the Americans will be in charge of, that will we ever want to use? I mean, they are the ultimate weapons of mass destruction. We will be killing women and children if we use them. And if we wouldn't use them, well, then why spend £100 billion on it?
Well, if I may,
just imagine what we could
Thornbury,
spend that money on instead.
Apologies for interrupting, but can I just ask you then, with the arrival of the new leader, just 48 hours ago, has Labour Party policy changed? Because the party policy is not the one that Jeremy Corbyn represents.
No, but Jeremy stood quite clearly on a platform that's what he wanted. That's the direction he wanted to take the party in. And look at what's happened to the Labour Party. We're now 500,000 people. I think that there will be a debate in public, and it'll be really interesting to see what the public say about this. Because, you know, I don't think we've really had a discussion about this. It's always been, oh, we've got to have nuclear weapons. Don't be ridiculous. So don't be so childish. We've got to have them. Well, actually, I don't think we necessarily do. And I think that it's perfectly fine for a leader of an opposition to ask questions about that, to have a debate within the Parliamentary Labour Party, to have a debate within the Labour Party and within the country. Let's decide if there are better things to spend £100 billion on, because I can certainly think of a few things. You know, how about spending some more money on the army? We have a smaller army than Oliver Cromwell these days, and yet we expect them to do jobs across the world at all times, and it is incredibly stretched. How about spending some of that money on homes? How about spending some of that money on infrastructure? You know, it's perfectly reasonable discussion to have.
Yes, so, I mean, I know you know Jeremy Corbyn well, because not least because he's your neighbouring MP. You're making a lot of the issue of debate, that he will be very good at fostering debate and getting people talking and being prepared to have those discussions. But he is now the leader of the Labour Party, and his job at some point will be to put his foot down and say, this is what we are. We're not going to talk about it anymore. We are what we are. Now, how confident are you that not only can he get people talking, which he undoubtedly will, because as you say, it's a very different kind of leadership, but there will come a point where he has to do it differently from how he has in the past, which is telling people, this is the party you're in. Is he capable of doing that?
Oh, I mean, from what I know of Jeremy, and I've known him for 10 or 11 years now, he certainly can. Once he's made up his mind, he's pretty determined.
Emily Thornbury, we wait to see whether you get a call later on. Maybe you'll let us know.
Okay, we'll see.
Thank you.
All right.
16 minutes past 8. This is Breakfast. Our main stories here this morning. As we've just been hearing, Labour's new leader, Jeremy Corbyn, tries to unify the party as he announces key appointments to his shadow cabinet.
The migration and refugee crisis will be discussed at an emergency meeting of EU ministers in Brussels today in the latest attempt to agree a coordinated response.
Carol has the weather for us again. I think she's recovered from her sneezes. Hopefully morning.
Good morning. Yes, I have. Thanks, Lou. This morning, we've got so many things going on with the weather. There's a lot of cloud. We've got some fog. We've got some rain. There'll be some showers. And it's also going to be pretty windy, not just this morning, but as we go through the course of the day in the southwest. That sums up the next few days. Wet at times, often windy, but there will be some sunshine, particularly so through the course of tomorrow. But today, low pressure is dominating our weather. There's lots of fronts wrapped around it, bringing in showers or longer spells of rain. And we've got this squeeze on the isobars across the southwestern approaches, meaning that it's going to be particularly windy here. Now, this is what's happened through the night. We've had showers or longer spells of rain, so that does mean there'll be a lot of surface water and spray in large puddles on the roads this morning. Equally, there's a lot of cloud, particularly in the east, and some of that is low cloud. So as we go through the day, the lion's share of the sunshine will be across northwest England, Northern Ireland and also western Scotland. And here too is where we'll have the fewest showers. But we hang on to the rain, moving from the east to the west across northeast Scotland. Then as we come south, we've got all the showers. Showers across northern England, but fairly few and far between. A fine afternoon, a fine day actually across Northern Ireland with just a few showers. And really for much of England and Wales as we head south, we're looking at that mixture of showers or spells of rain. And some of the showers will be heavy and thundery. But it's not just the rain, it's the wind as well. We could have gusts 40, 50 miles an hour across the southwestern approaches of England and Wales, even more than that with a bit of exposure. And those gusty winds through the evening and overnight will transfer across the English Channel counties. You can see in the south that we've got some large wind arrows, as indeed we have across the Channel Islands. Inland, though, we're looking at a lot of clouds, still some rain around. The rain sweeping over towards the Atlantic Ocean from the North Sea, and you can see some breaks in the cloud as well across Scotland, and that's where it will be chilly. So tomorrow we start off on that cloudy note with the rain moving away from eastern England. Behind it, there'll be a few showers developing across the Midlands, East Wales and also western Scotland, but a lot of dry weather too and a fair bit of sunshine. Tomorrow is looking much drier for most than it is going to be today. And then as we head on through the week into Wednesday, while we do still have an area of low pressure coming our way, it's the remnants of ex-tropical storm Henri, and it's likely to bring in some milder conditions in across the southeast in particular. But we've also got the rain. Now, don't take this as gospel as to where exactly the rain's going to be, because the placement of it could change. It's come further north as we've been on air this morning than we thought originally. But north of that, once again, we're looking at brighter conditions and also some sunshine. Temperature-wise, well, we've got 13 or 14 in the north to highs of 17 or 18 as we sweep further south. Lou and Charlie.
Oh, thank you very much indeed.